Azure's resiliency is built on a layered foundation. From infrastructure to AI-driven operations, every layer is designed for reliability. Our tools give customers real-time insights and control. With Azure's new resiliency platform, resilience becomes part of your design. Resiliency in Azure is a unified platform designed to keep you ahead of risks before they impact you. Whether you're managing resources or full applications, we've got you covered. Our platform gives you scalable, detailed views of your resiliency posture, so you can make informed decisions faster. This is resilience built for you. The platform also provides targeted resiliency recommendations. These insights explain what to do and why it matters. Whether you design architectures or manage databases, guidance is clear and actionable. AI-driven capabilities reduce the challenges of resiliency upgrades. Copilot generates deployment scripts that clearly outline business impact before you act, making complex changes easier, faster, and safer. Once your upgrades are complete, you can put your plan to test. Drills simulate real-world outages in a controlled environment. They help validate your design and boost confidence in your readiness. This ensures resilience isn't just planned, it's proven. Come explore resiliency in Azure with us.
Welcome, everyone. I'm here to talk about resiliency in Azure. I'm 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗶𝗀𝗀, Partner Product Manager responsible for Azure Resiliency. Over the next 30 minutes, myself and my colleague will talk about our reimagination of resiliency and how we are going to help build the best applications on Azure. With that, let me get started. Before I delve deeper into resiliency, I want to remind you about the announcement we did at Keynote around Azure Copilot and agentic framework which we have built around it. It's built on these 6 pillars, which allows you to have full lifecycle management of your application. It starts with migration. If you want to bring your applications onto Azure, a migration agent helps you bring applications seamlessly into Azure. Our deployment agents help you deploy with confidence on Azure. Optimization helps you build the right performance and cost optimization onto your application deployed on Azure. Observability is our approach to make sure that you can monitor your applications completely and with confidence. Resiliency, which we'll talk more about here, is about building the resilient applications on Azure and having the observability on that resiliency. And last but not the least is troubleshooting. In an event of a failure of application or infrastructure, you're getting the full visibility of what's happening. This ecosystem of Copilot allows you to operate the applications with confidence, and all of these agents are interlinked under the Copilot. So the usage of one can be leveraged by another agent and give you a full lifecycle management. Before I talk more on resiliency, let's understand how we see resiliency. Resiliency is a 3-layer approach out here. We, as hyperscaler, Azure, Microsoft, we have the responsibility of providing the resiliency foundation. That's about building the redundancy into our infrastructure and ensuring that our data centers are working in a resilient manner. Over the years, we have been giving you various features and tools to build the resilient application. Let's take an example. If you are running a 3-tier application which is using a VM, a SQL server, or a storage account, today, when you go on Azure and try to build resiliency on your application, you may be going and doing a backup of a VM, replication of your SQL server, and maybe snapshotting on your storage account. It's been difficult. That's what all our customers come and say. And not think that you are doing it for hundreds of applications, each application being different. Some using AKS, some using Cosmos DB. Every customer, as they grow and scale onto Azure, they have come back and told us that all of these piecemeal features have been difficult for them to manage. Above that, able to observe the resiliency posture, to be able to see how the applications are working has been difficult. And last but not the least, do you have the confidence? Are you sure that your application will recover in the event of a failure? Last Ignite at Chicago, I got the opportunity to talk to many customers. I will tell you a story of a customer. This customer actually has a central IT team which runs all the infrastructure across 5 or 6 different regions. This infrastructure team is responsible to put the guidance, making sure that they have the right landing zones. Now, they have more than 20 subsidiaries of their own company which deploys application. Each subsidiary has to deploy the application in a resilient manner. They have to go and understand the guidance these control team has been providing and build the application on top of it. Even when the application owners have deployed, it's the responsibility of the central team to observe whether the application are being resilient or not. And there has been many hands-off between these. And as new application comes in, they find it more and more difficult. This whole conversation which I told you was the seed for what we are going to show you further ahead, or what we had just shown you as a demo of resiliency in Azure. It is our approach to help you build at-scale resiliency with a full observability, validation, and confidence. Let's look at what the resiliency is. I would also want to highlight the point that the definition of resiliency has been evolving in our industry. Resiliency is no longer infrastructure failure and protection against that failure. We see resiliency as 3 dimensions: infra, data, and cyber. Infra, well known, even if when you were running applications on-premise, you were managing your infrastructure, doing clustering and building the infrastructure resiliency. Here, Microsoft is taking a lot of responsibility and providing you zonal and regional capabilities to have this infra resiliency. On the data side, which is your critical piece, you have to ensure your critical data is secure. It's protected against oops delete, corruption, and any other operation failures. That's what we call data resiliency. Cyber resiliency. In the world today, where we have so many threats which are coming, actors trying to access your applications, ransomware attack, on one side you are trying to protect against, but you still need to have resilience to be able to recover from those cyber failures. And that's what we call cyber recovery. Our approach to resiliency is a holistic approach which will cover infra, data, and cyber. In this particular session, we will more focus on infra. We have a session tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for data and cyber resiliency, which is Breakout 146, and we'll talk more around that. A quick show of hand, how many of you have heard Azure Business Continuity Center? Okay, I see some of you. Azure Business Continuity Center was our approach to build BCDR using our services called Azure Backup and Azure Site Recovery. That was providing you backup and disaster recovery for, I would still say, handful of resources, maybe top 20 or 30. As we looked and expanded our definition of resiliency, we found Azure Business Continuity Center to be limiting. And at this Ignite, we have reimagined and rebranded that Azure Resiliency. And this Azure Resiliency is built on these 5 pillars, which I'm going to walk you through. As a customer, you want to focus on your application and have business goals. So that's why we are starting at the first pillar in itself, which is application-centric experience. When I say application-centric experience, you may be devising your application today as subscription, resource group, or tags-based approach. But it's not an entity you are living, and we have a management on top of it. So we have introduced this concept of service group, and we are helping within the resiliency to build this logical entity of service group so that you can bring your application awareness into the resiliency center itself. And that's where the whole experience starts, starting with the application. As an application owner, your next goal is to have your business goals met. You want to define your business goal based on the tier 0 or tier 1 application, in the definition of RPO, RTO, or the type of failures you want to protect. So that's why the interaction between you and the resiliency agent is based on goals, where your goals will be taken as an input and will be converted into recommendations, which are agentically and intelligent recommendations, which will help you configure your application in a resilient manner. Once the resiliency has been configured, the next step comes around app health and monitoring, which is around observing this resiliency on an ongoing basis, knowing your resiliency posture at all given times. Fourth pillar, which is around validation. No resiliency solution is complete if you can't validate your resiliency. We are integrating chaos and expanding chaos with different kinds of faults, which will allow you to test your resiliency postures on an ongoing basis. Last but not the least, it's about recovery as an application, where we are bringing recovery orchestrators, which will allow you to recover as an application with multiple replication channels and even your own steps, so that you can do this recovery and testing with confidence. These are the grounding rules for us when we are thinking about resiliency on the 3 pillars, and these 5 dimensions is what we have built. All of this experience is built as a platform, powered by Copilot and agents in the background, and purpose-built for Azure services. I will just take 30 seconds to land that point. When I say it's powered by Copilot, we are not just using our static knowledge base, but we are evolving the knowledge base based on your deployments. We will work with you to observe how your applications are running and what kind of resiliency failures they are seeing and what kind of patterns are remaining resilient. And the recommendations are becoming intelligent based on the true lived experience of customers. So instead of static recommendations, it's become an intelligent living system which evolves as we go and deploy more and more. It is built as a platform. That means while you can leverage a portal experience, you can also manage it through your own experiences, through your PowerShell and CLIs, and integrate at your Terraform and API level. And it is going to cover all services. With that, in this particular session, we'll go and show more deeply on how zonal resiliency has been built in, and Surya, my colleague, will come over and show you the demos for that. Over to you, Surya.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm super excited and thrilled to be here. We've been working for like many months now, right? Rochak also mentioned that he got to speak to a lot of customers at last Ignite, and we've continued those conversations. We've heard you, and now we're here with a brand new resiliency experience. Now, what do I like to do the most? Before I actually get into a lot of the details, I actually like to give you a demo first, right? Because that's exciting, right? First, take a look at the live demos and then get into the details. All right. I'm going to take the example of my favorite enterprise company, which is 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗧. Now, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗧 is extremely interested in zonal resiliency posture. They have a bunch of resources and lots of applications to deal with. Now, who gets this massive responsibility of cloud resiliency transformation? Well, it's Alex, our cloud architect at 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗧. Now, Alex thinks, hey, can I just go ahead and start with one single application, which is my payment app? Well, yes. Now, Alex now comes to Azure Copilot Resiliency Agent, and she says, I'm truly interested in resiliency. Now, tell me, what can I do? The agent tells, hey, there's a brand new experience that we've launched. Why don't you go ahead? Alex now comes into this new resiliency experience and sees that there are a bunch of insights that she's been given. What you see here is zonal resiliency insights. There's also recommendations to deal with. She thinks, well, I'm also able to discover a net new capability called as the top action, where you can go ahead and create a service group which is basically how you go and define your applications and make sure there's no sprawl of your resources, right? Now she says, well, go ahead and create the service group for my payment application. Well, voila, there you go. Our resiliency agent is doing all the magic out there. And then Alex also discovers there is a net new concept called as goals, where you can use that and become zonally resilient. Now, the goals are getting assigned, and then Alex is being told, why don't you go ahead to your service group recommendations? She thinks, yeah, that's a good thing to do. Gets in, she again sees those insights, is able to look at what are the resources which are zonally resilient versus not. There's also observability being given in. Then there's the recommendation to make the PostgreSQL database resilient. She says, yes, that's a good idea, let me do that. Gets into the details of it, wants to understand a bit more on what it is to do. Now, there's a brand new thing that we are launching, which is Fix with Copilot. She goes in, the resiliency agent is again going to do the next round of magic for you. Now she wants to know what is going to happen, right? She does not want to look into a bunch of documentation or anything like that. Now the agent says, well, go from burstable to general purpose queue. It also provides the information of your cost impact, right? Also mentions there's going to be a bit of downtime, but you're going to be there, right, in no time. Now, Copilot or the resiliency agent is providing Alex with two ready-to-execute scripts. One, go ahead, change the SKU from burstable to general purpose. The second one, hey, you already have a standby server. Why don't you move to the available zone? Alex now finds the time to do that, and then she again comes back to see, is everything fine with my application and resources? Gets into the overview page, looks at the zonal resiliency insights. It all looks good. Alex is super thrilled at this point in time. That was a quick live experience of what we've launched, and that's just a part one. And now I want to spend a little bit of time talking through what you all saw with the live experience. Now, with the new zonal resiliency capabilities, you will now be able to get a detailed resiliency posture. I was actually talking to a healthcare customer some time back, and they mentioned that, we have like hundreds of applications and then thousands of resources. I really don't know where I can start from, right? Because each Azure service has their own way of surfacing the resiliency posture. What we're now doing is bringing all of those things together for you, making it a very seamless experience, right? So we always had the view of resources, right? But again, in a siloed manner. Now we're doing that, but we're also bringing the concept of application centricity. Now, both of these things together, imagine how powerful it can get, right? That's nothing but the detailed resiliency posture that you're going to have. The next thing is, well, I know, okay, all of these resources and all of these applications are there. Now, how do I know what are those resources or applications that I really need to care about? So that's where you go and spot the non-resilient resources. So back in the video as well, you saw that you will have the ability not only to spot the non-resilient resources, but also those applications where the zonal resiliency goals are not applied. Because as a customer, you care mainly about the business outcomes, right? Is it highly available? Am I able to assign the RPO and RTO? And do I really know what the SLI is going to be of my application? So goals are meant for those business outcomes. The next thing, well, I do care about resiliency a lot. But then, of course, there's cost associated in doing that, right? Now, how do I decide what is the trade-off? Where should I really invest in, right? So that's where the cost impact comes into the picture. Now, with every recommendation, you will now be empowered with cost impact, which can move from high, medium, or low. Now, all of these magic that I'm just talking about, right? You have the resiliency agent for guided remediation and the ready-to-execute scripts that you just saw in the demo. let's get into the details a little bit more on the zonal resiliency posture itself, right? Now, all of our customers have been very used to the concept of, okay, there's subscriptions, there's resource groups and tags, and they have been organizing their applications in this manner. Now, we want to meet you where all of you are, right? So whether you have the existing app constructs, we make it possible for you to go and adopt service groups in a very, seamless manner. Or if you're new to Azure, or you probably want to create a brand new application right on Azure, that's possible too. So that's what we're going to start off with. The next thing, like I was calling out, business outcomes. Goals are the new ways of doing that, right? Post that, you also want to make sure that your mission critical or business critical, or in some cases, your tier 0 and tier 1 applications are catered to. So this is where you go ahead and identify those applications and assign the goals. Next thing, you also want to be able to quantify to know how many of those applications or resources are there in your entire estate. Be able to know what is really there. Do you really know your estate very well? So that's what we want to go and solve for. The next thing, of course, you want to have recommendations, right? And it's not just recommendations, but you basically want actionable insights. You want to know, how can I go ahead and take a particular action, and why is this even important for me? Now, the main thing that we've also been hearing about is that, hey, well, I really don't care about all the resources in my environment. Some could be, dev test environment, and in some cases, you probably would have like resources with their, custom solution perhaps, right? And you want to really exclude those resources or applications from your resiliency posture. You do not want false gaps at all, right? That's what we are empowering you to do. Exclude the resources which you think should not be part of the resiliency posture, and that's possible now. The main thing is that we are coming up with this experience across a bunch of Azure services, which is very critical to any sort of an enterprise application, so you don't really have to worry too much about it. Now, resiliency agents, you must have heard about this in Scott's keynote. There was 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and spoke about it briefly. So with our resiliency agent, we are now focusing primarily on infra resiliency in this session. In Breakout 146, you will hear more about the data resiliency and cyber recovery and what resiliency agent can do for you. Within this, you will now be able to take guidance on application and resource level insights. There is a brand new experience called as top actions because you really want to care about the top recommendations to start off with. Once you actually taken an action on the top actions that have been actually mentioned to you or the recommendations that have been provided to you, post that, we surface the next priority recommendations for you so that you only care about the critical recommendations and then you don't have to really deal with it, everything at one go. Again, cost implications, very much part of a resiliency agent so that there is the trade-off decision that you can do very easily. Finally, you also have resiliency agent that will help you with ready-to-execute scripts and much more. Now, I have spoken about how Alex was tasked with such a massive, massive responsibility at 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝗧𝗏, right? Well, she's gone ahead, created this application. The payment application is going strong. Everybody in the IT is really happy about it. But now, how do we make sure that, if there is a disaster or if there is an unforeseen circumstance, how would they deal with it, right? That's where drills and recovery orchestration would again come into the picture. Now, like I said, I love to do a demo first before I get into many of the other details. So I'm going to begin the demo first and then talk to you a little bit more. In this demo, we will look at validating zonal resiliency posture through recovery as well as the zonal drills. Now again, I'm back with Alex for this demo. So Alex comes, and like I said, she's very happy with how her application is performing. She looks at it, and she sees there's a brand new recommendation which says, go ahead, create a drill for cross-zone validation. She says yes, and that's something very key to me and my management. I'm going to go there and see what the recommendation is calling out to me for. Says, go ahead, create a drill. Alex chooses the option. And now you are able to go ahead, set a name to the drill, and start creating your drill templates. Within the zone down drill template, you are able to go ahead and assign identity, roles, and permissions because you want the right stakeholders to be doing the fault simulations for you. One of the coolest things that we've done is for all of the pre-built fault scenarios that we have, we are auto-populating the metrics for the drills. Once that is done, Alex is back into the resiliency page and notices, hey, for every drill, there's got to be a recovery plan. Like if something's wrong, what do? I need to have a recovery plan for recovery orchestration. A create recovery plan is shown over here. It's created, and within that, you're now able to see the protection status as well as the solutions that are protecting each of the resources within the application. Once that is done, you will also be able to see in which order you need to be recovering the resources within your app. Finally, you will also be seeing, here are the resources that is excluded from the drills as well as recovery orchestration, all of it in a unified resiliency page. The next thing is, now in this example, you're also seeing VMSS as well as PostgreSQL. And if we were to go ahead and simulate a fault scenario for this, you would go ahead and disable auto-scaling, or you would probably shut down a VM. In case of a PostgreSQL database, you would probably use a failover API to make sure the standby server is going to the available zone. And like I said, all of these are pre-built templates as well. If you're interested, you can go ahead and use your custom scripts as well, and custom faults too. One of the other things that we've done is provided you with real-time metrics for your drills. The key part about drills is also that you want to be able to attest and pull reports out of it. So with the new experience, that's possible too. Now, all in all, you saw that how we are possibly making sure that there is the assessment that we're making, there is also the monitoring, there is the improvement, and finally, we're also validating the scenario for you. Now, Alex is fully sorted for any kind of an incident. All right, so I think you must have really gotten the gist from the demo video that I had shown you. But again, let me start off with talking a little bit about why do we really need to care about this, right? What do we really mean by recover with confidence? Regular drills and fault simulations are absolutely essential for building a resilient organization. How do you make sure that there are systems, workflows, and teams who are actually coming together, and they're actually making sure that it's all done in a very consistent manner? It's nothing but continuous validation for us. What does it do, or what's the outcome of it? It's nothing but reinforcing trust in all of those things. The second important thing would be assurance. How do I know there is no misconfiguration, or there is no drift that is happening, or are there any vulnerabilities in my estate? And that is continuous observability, because you don't want to be that it's going to be like a costly affair at the end of it, right? Finally, you have the compliance. Drills actually act as a powerful compliance mechanism. By simulating real-world fault outages, you actually want to make sure that the first failover that you're doing is not when the disaster strikes or not when the teams are really in a stressful situation, right? We've also been hearing a lot about DORA, for example, right? But almost every regulatory standard says that, hey, you got to have drills, and you tell me, have you done this? Maybe it's 3 months, 6 months, or once a year, right? Now, with all of these things, what would be the customer outcome? It would be uninterrupted availability. My applications are always available. Now, if at all there were a disaster that was struck, then I can actually go ahead and do the recovery in a much faster pace. And I'm fully prepared. I know what's working and I know what's not working, and I can go and take specific set of actions as well. Now with that, I'll get into a little bit about the drills itself and what are we really providing you in this. So using the drills template, you can go ahead and now simulate real-world zone-down outages, and you can go ahead and test your resiliency posture, know what's working, what's not working. Go ahead, assign the names, identities, and roles. And the coolest part, like I was telling you, is that we auto-populate the most relevant zone-down faults depending upon the resources that you really care about. There's also a very easy integration, and we've already done that for you with the recovery plan, because if you were to go ahead and orchestrate a recovery, it's all there in one single place. The next thing is, of course, tracking the metrics real time, and you also want to know if your application is doing healthy or not. Last but not the least, we also give you the ability to pull the reports and a test on who has actually gone and performed the drills for you. So far, we've been simulating outages, fault scenarios, but how about doing the recovery itself, right? Now, with the introduction of recovery orchestration, you can now go ahead and recover your entire application. Instead of just caring about like a single resource at one time, go ahead and recover your entire application. Secondly, we now do not care about which particular solution the resource is using. All you have to do is click recovery, and then you have the entire application to the other zone. Now, the best part is that all of these things are in a single unified resiliency experience. So starting with, start the recover to the planning and the execution of it, everything in one single place. Finally, we also have the execute readiness checks, because if at all there are any drifts in the application, you will be able to catch that much earlier on and not when you've actually orchestrated your recovery. All right, with that, I also want to take a time to sort of really bring all of these things together, right? We now are at a very important phase in our entire resiliency journey, right? We want to care about the customers who are starting brand new on Azure. We also want to care about the customers who've been on Azure for quite some time. Also, making sure that they continuously improve their resiliency posture, right? Which is the overall resiliency life cycle of start, get, and stay resilient. Now, we don't mind where you start with, right? Whether it's the portal experience, or you are using our resiliency agent, or you really care about infrastructure as a code, you have options all throughout. And to top it all, it's not going to be just infra resiliency, but we are thinking about the data resiliency and cyber recovery as well. So I'm truly excited to have actually launched all of these capabilities at Ignite this year, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how you take this and give us your feedback as well. Some closing resources. There is Azure Accelerate that has been launched this year, which is the evolution of Azure Migrate and Modernization, as well as Azure Innovate. There is also a bunch of exciting offers within Azure Accelerate where you get access to trusted partners. There is Microsoft funding that goes into it, as well as Cloud Acceleration Factory as well. Finally, we do encourage you to go to our MS Learned resources to get more information on the resiliency experiences. So thank you so much for your time today. We're going to be around if you have any questions, but I think it has been a great session for me. I hope you all enjoyed as much as both me and Rochak did. So thank you.